Hey there, YouTube. Before I get into the video, let me remind you that if you like my content, hit the like and subscribe button. And also, if you feel the need to support me, hit me up on my Patreon at patreon.com/uncommonramen, capital U, capital R. I do all of this in my free time, so any amount of support can help me bring more of this content to you. Alright, today I wanted to take a look at a commander in the form of Blanka, Ferocious Friend. So we're going to jump into this. Blanka is a interesting commander because if he becomes targeted by a spell, he gets +2/+2 until end of turn and deals 2 damage to each opponent. He also has haste, and he has trample as long as you cast 3 or more spells during your turn. As a 5/5, he is quite a body. The downside being that he costs 5. He costs 3 and a red and green to play, which can slow him down, but ultimately, once you get him in play, if he sticks for a turn, you can almost guarantee someone is going to die. So this is going to be I guess a Spellslinger cantrip type strategy for this one. Yeah, so we'll just jump in. We're going to start with the creatures, but there aren't very many of these. Obviously, this is going to be built more like a Voltron type deck. Starting with Birgi, God of Storytelling for 2 and a red. It is a 3/3. Whenever you cast a spell, you add a red mana to your mana pool, and until end of turn, you don't lose mana as steps and phases end. The bottom text to your creatures you control can boast twice during each of your turns. Is not going to take effect because there's nothing in here that has boast. We will look at the other side of this because this side actually is useful in this deck. We have Harnfell, Horn of Bounty. It costs 4 and a red. You can discard a card to exile the top 2 cards of your library, and you can play those cards this turn. I have actually saved myself from a losing game with this card, or I guess with this side of Birgi. So don't underestimate this power. Next we have Bothersome Quasite. This is 2 and a red for a 3/2 with Menace. Goaded creatures your opponents control can't block, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, goad target creature an opponent controls. We have Chandra's Incinerator for 5 and a red. It's 6/6. It costs X less, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn. It has Trample, and whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to your opponent, Chandra's Incinerator deals that much damage to target creature or planeswalker that player controls. Next up, we have Electrostatic Field for 1 and a red. It's 0/4 with Defender. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Electrostatic Field deals 1 damage to each opponent. We got Firebrand Archer for 1 and a red. It's a 2/1. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Firebrand Archer deals 1 damage to each opponent. Here at Goblin and Narcomancer for 1 green, 1 red. It's a 2/2. Each spell that's red or green costs 1 less to cast. We got Gutter Snipe for 2 and a red. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Gutter Snipe deals 2 damage to each opponent. We got Kedis Emberclaw Familiar for 1 and a red. It's a 1/1. Whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. We got Kessig Flamebreather for 1 and a red. It's a 1/3. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Kessig Flamebreather deals 1 damage to each opponent. We got Krark the Thumbless for 1 and a red. It's a 2/2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return the spell to its owner's hand. If you win the flip, copy the spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. We got Sulfime Mayhem Dominus. Sulfime Mayhem Dominus. For 2 and 2 red, it's a 5/4. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or permanent an opponent controls, it deals double that damage to that player or permanent instead. And for 1 and 2 Phyrexian red mana, you can discard 2 cards to put a indestructible counter on Sulfime Mayhem Dominus. Got Stormkiln Artist for 3 and a red. It's a 2/2. Stormkiln Artist gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control, and Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, create a treasure token. Got Thermal Alchemist for 1 and a red. It has Defender. It's a 0/3. You can tap Thermal Alchemist to deal 1 damage to each opponent, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you get to untap Thermal Alchemist. We have Urabrask for 2 and 2 red. It's a 4/4 with first strike. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Urabrask deals 1 damage to target opponent, and you add 1 red mana. And for 1 red, you can exile Urabrask, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. Activate only as a sorcery, and only if you've cast 3 or more instant or sorcery spells this turn. This will reveal the Great Work. It's a saga. Chapter 1 says the Great Work deals 3 damage to target opponent and each creature they control. Chapter 2, create 3 treasure tokens, and Chapter 3, until end of turn, you may cast instant and sorcery spells from any graveyard. If a spell cast this way would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead, exile the Great Work, and then return it to the battlefield. And then last we have Zada Heteron Grinder for 3 and a red. It's a 3/3. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Zada Heteron Grinder, copy that spell for each other creature you control that spell could target, and each copy targets a different one of those creatures. Next up, we're going to have the bulk of the deck, which is going to be instants. Starting with Beast Within. It's 2 and a green, destroy target permanent. Its controller gets a 3/3 beast creature token. Blazing Crescendo. For 1 and a red, target creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn. Exile the top card of your library. Until end of your next turn, you may play that card. Got Blossoming Defense for 1 green. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains hexproof until end of turn. We got Chaos Warp for 2 and a red. The owner of target permanent shuffles it into their library, then reveals the top card of their library. If it's a permanent card, put that card onto the battlefield. We got Charge Through. For 1 green, target creature gains trample until end of turn. Draw a card. We got Crimson Wisps. For 1 red, target creature becomes red and gains haste until end of turn. Draw a card. We got Expedite. For 1 red, target creature gains haste until end of turn. Draw a card. We got Fists of Flame. For 1 and a red, draw a card. Until end of turn, target creature gains trample and +1/+0 for each card you've drawn this turn. Got Gaia's Gift for 1 and a green. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains reach, trample, hexproof, and indestructible until end of turn. We got Hunter's Insight for 2 and a green. Choose target creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker this turn, draw that many cards. We got Invigorate for 2 and a green. If you control a forest, rather than paying Invigorate's mana cost, you may have an opponent gain 3 life. And then target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. You got Colony Ambush for 2 and a green. Target creature you control fights creature you don't control. On the flip side, it is a land. We got Mutagenic Growth for Phyrexian green mana. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. We got Poison the Blade for 1 and a green. Target creature gains Death Touch until end of turn. Draw a card. We got Psychotic Fury for 1 and a green. Target multicolored creature gains double strike until end of turn. Draw a card. We got Ram Through for 1 and a green. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. If the creature you control has trample, excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. We got Snakeskin Veil for 1 green. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains hexproof until end of turn. We got Soul's Fire for 2 and a red. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to any target. Got Tamiyo's Safekeeping for 1 green. Target permanent you control gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. You gain 2 life. We got Sudden Breakthrough for 1 and a red. Target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. You create a treasure token. Got Temur Battle Rage for 1 and a red. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. And then Ferocious, that creature also gains trample until end of turn if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. Got Twinferno for 1 and a red. You get to choose one. Whenever you cast the next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. Got Tyvar's Stand for X and a green. Target creature you control gets +X/+X and gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Got Unleash Fury for 1 and red. Double the power of target creature until end of turn. Vines of Vastwood costs 1 green. It has a kicker for 1 green. Target creature can't be the target of spells or abilities an opponent controls. If Vines of Vastwood was kicked, that creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. Got Viridescent Wisps for 1 green. Target creature becomes green and gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Draw a card. So next up we have sorceries. Starting with Ancestral Anger for 1 red. Target creature gains trample and gets +X/+0, where X is 1 plus the number of cards named Ancestral Anger in your graveyard. Draw a card. We got Animist's Might for 2 and a green. This spell costs 2 less if it targets a legendary creature you control. Target creature you control deals damage equal to twice its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. We got Chandra's Ignition. If I remember correctly, for 3 and 2 red, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each opponent and all creatures each of your opponents control. Crash Through for 1 red. Creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. Draw a card. We got Cultivate for 2 and a green. Search your library for 2 basic lands. Put 1 onto the battlefield tapped and 1 into your hand. And then shuffle. We got Farseek for 1 and a green. Search your library for a plains, island, swamp, mountain. Put that onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. All right, Grape Shot for 1 and a red. Grape Shot deals 1 damage to any target and has Storm. We got Ground Rift for 1 red. Target creature without flying can't block this turn. It has Storm. Jessica's Will for 2 and a red. Choose 1. If you control your commander as you cast a spell, you may choose both. Add red mana for each card in target opponent's hand. And exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. We got Kodama's Reach for 2 and a green. Search your library for 2 basic land cards. Put 1 onto the battlefield, tap the other into your hand, and then shuffle. Got Mizzix's Mastery, which allows you to play an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. If that card would go back to your graveyard, it gets exiled instead. You can overload this for 5 and 3 red. To target all instants and sorceries in your graveyard, and they will all get exiled, including Mizzix's Mastery. And I do believe you don't have to pay their mana costs, but I will double check that. Okay, so yeah, you do not have to pay their mana cost, and the actual text says you exile target instant or sorcery from your graveyard, and then you may create a copy and cast that without paying its mana cost, and then for overload, you do that for each instant or sorcery in your graveyard. We got Nature's Lure for 1 and a green. Search your library for a forest, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle. Got Past in Flames for 3 and a red. Each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost, and it has flashback for 4 and a red. We got Rampant Growth for 1 and a green. Search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Got Renegade Tactics for 1 red. Target creature can't block this turn. Draw a card. Got Soul's Majesty for 4 and a green. Draw cards equal to the power of target creature you control. And then we got 3 visits for 1 and a green. Search your library for a forest card. Put that card onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. Next up is going to be Artifacts. Got Arcane Signet. Costs 2, and you can tap it for your commander's color identity. We got Soul Ring that costs 1. You can tap it for 2 colorless. Got Swiftfoot Boots that cost 2, and it equips for 1. Equipped creature gets hexproof and haste. And then we got Two-Handed Axe for 2 and a red. It has a adventure for 1 and a red. Sweeping Cleave. Target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. And then it equips for 1 and a red. Whenever equipped creature attacks, double its power until end of turn. Next up is enchantments. Starting with Arcane Bombardment. For 4 and 2 red, whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, exile an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard, then copy each card exiled this with Arcane Bombardment. You may cast any number of copies without paying their mana cost. We got Fiery Inscription for 2 and a red. When Fiery Inscription enters the battlefield, the ring tempts you. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Fiery Inscription deals 2 damage to each opponent. We got Keen Sense for 1 green. It's an enchantment aura. Whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. We have Season of Growth for 1 and a green. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a card. We got Snake Umbra for 2 and a green. Enchantment aura. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has, whenever this creature deals damage to an opponent, draw a card. And Totem Armor. And then we have Wild Defiance for 2 and a green. Whenever a creature you control becomes the target of an instant or sorcery spell, that creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Okay, next up is non-basic lands. Starting with Cinderglade. It's a mountain forest that enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. We got Command Tower, which taps for your commander's color identity. We got Contested Cliffs for taps for colorless. And then for 1 red and 1 green, you can tap it to have a beast creature you control fight a creature an opponent controls. Got Crag Crown Pathway, the MDFC for red-green. We got Karplusan Forest, the Painland for red-green. We got Kessig Wolf Run, taps for colorless, and you can spend X and a red and a green and tap this to have target creature get +X/+0 and gain trample until end of turn. We got Rockfall Vale, is the check land for red-green. We got Rogue's Passage, taps for colorless, and you can also tap 4 and it to have target creature be unblockable until end of turn. Got Rootbound Crag, another check land for red-green. Got Stomping Ground, a shock land for red-green. Got Temple of Abandon, a scry land for red-green. Got Wooded Foothills, a fetch land for red-green. And then next we have our basic lands. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 forests. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mountains. So that's the Blanka Ferocious Friend deck tech. There are 2 honorable mentions that need to go in that I just didn't have on hand at the time that are still in the mail. Aggressive Urge, which I believe is 1 green, target creature gets +2/+2, and you get to draw a card. It is an instant. And then we have Irresistible Prey for 1 green, target creature you control fights target creature you don't control, and you draw a card. And again, I believe that's a sorcery. Could be wrong on that. They aren't in here because I didn't own a copy at the time, and they're currently in the mail, so I didn't have them with me to do the video. There's some cards in here that I might not keep in here. Bothersome Quasite is really good, but it also costs 2 and a green. I'm sorry, 2 and a red. And while that doesn't seem like it's a huge cost, in this kind of a deck, it kind of is, unless you get it in the beginning of the game. So the idea of this deck is obvious. We're going to try and cantrip into a bunch of spells that target Blanka and just continuously deal damage to our opponents with not only Blanka, but cards like Firebrand Archer, Electrostatic Field, Kessig Flame Breather, Gutter Snipe, you name it, in order to shut out the game very quickly. The upside to this is that Blanka also gets massive in the process of doing so, so even if you don't end up killing your opponents with the damage that's being slung around by targeting him, you're very likely to kill your opponents just by commander damage by swinging in with Blanka. We have cards like the, I think it's Overgrown something or other, Season of Growth, that help turn all of your cards that target into cantrips so that you just continuously play cards. And then you have things like Birgi and Urabrask, which are going to continuously give you red mana for casting spells, so that you can dump even more spells out. And then in worst case scenario, you can play Birgi on Harnfell, Horn of Bounty, if you can't find the win and you're in a pinch, to help discard cards from your hand to start revealing cards off the top of your library that you might actually be able to play. So that is Blanka, Ferocious Friend. A little Street Fighter fun there. There is the Howling Abomination as the Universes Within version of this. And yeah, if you have any comments or questions, leave those down below, but let's keep it positive. I'll remove negative comments, and until next time, guys, peace.